A while back, I made a video telling all of you that the business that I was trying to start did ultimately end up failing. Now that video was kind of quick and short and to the point, mostly because I really didn't want to have to make that video, but I wanted to actually make a follow-up to that video talking about why I believe the business failed. And I actually wanted to make this video for a few reasons. The first one being that I just don't really feel like enough people out there actually talk about their failures. A lot of times when we follow pages on like social media and whatnot, a lot of people like to talk about their successes and how much they've made over the years and whatnot, but a lot of people don't really kind of give you that real-time feedback about their failures as well. Another reason why I wanted to make this video, though, is more or less just for personal reasons, because while I'm not one to dwell on what's happened in the past, I think it's important to at least learn from your past so you know how to make better decisions in the future. Also, another reason why I wanted to make this video is because in case any of you out there are starting your business, of course mine was in real estate, yours might be something completely different, but maybe through watching something like this, you'll be able to gather some tips or ideas to help make sure that you don't make some of the same mistakes that I did when I was starting my business. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name's Matt, and once again, don't really have a disclosure to say at the beginning of this video, so we'll skip that. Forgot to say this last time, so I'll just throw it in there now. If you don't mind liking, subscribing, all that stuff, if you haven't already. It's been a while since I've had to ask that, so I don't really know what anybody's saying anymore, but I'm sure you're familiar with that same old pitch. So I was able to narrow down to really about 4 main reasons why I believe my business failed. And what I wanted to do is go through each of those reasons, talk about the reason itself, why I think that impacted the business, but also what I was able to take away from that and maybe the experience that I gained from it to take forward with me into any future endeavors that I have. And I'll say too, of course there were some personal reasons and kind of, personal relationship matters that happen in businesses that also impacted our business. However, that's something that is always going to be specific to that business itself. So that's not going to be things that I bring up during this video. So the first reason has to do with, I think we were trying to reinvent the wheel or reinvent something that just simply did not need to be fixed. It was fine as is, and the proof was already out there because there were a ton of people out there at the same time making a ton of money through real estate. Essentially what we were trying to do was like a hybrid solution between like a wholesaler and a regular real estate agent while still representing the funds. So essentially, wholesalers try to market usually to distressed sellers to purchase their homes in order to help them get out of a bad situation, maybe to avoid a foreclosure, bankruptcy, something along those lines. And then they purchase those houses and essentially sell it to an investor or another client at a slightly higher price. And then they make the difference on what they purchased the house for versus what they sold it at. And they generate these leads generally through things like cold calling, advertising, direct mail, things along those lines. So we were trying to take that marketing strategy, but we were targeting more or less just your regular sellers. So somebody who maybe was not in a distressed situation, maybe the thought, given how crazy the real estate market was, of just thinking, maybe I could sell this house for, a little bit more than I could have a year ago, and I'd entertain the idea of receiving an offer. So we were trying to market to those kinds of people to bring the properties to the funds. The problem with that, though, and why this ultimately didn't work out for us, I believe, is because in this market right now, people's homes were selling within, 1 to 2 days, overpriced at no repairs, no inspections, no anything. So our proposition wasn't really fully needed because they could just list it anytime they wanted and just sell it without having to really worry about us undercutting them or maybe not giving them top dollar. And I think ultimately the reason why that impacted our business is because we were trying to combine 2 different types of real estate solutions that really did not need to be combined at that point in time. If we wanted to represent our buyer client, we should have just done that the same way everybody else was doing, which was just simply finding properties that were listed on market. Or if we were more into helping out regular investors and taking the wholesaling route, then our marketing should have been more targeted towards somebody who might be in a distressed situation. Again, whether that be things like recent divorces, or if you're potentially going through like a foreclosure, maybe you even just need to move very soon and just want to sell your house as quickly as possible. So the biggest takeaway I have from that is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's a very old saying, but it stands true. Maybe the thing I would change that though, if it's not broke, don't fix it yet. Because ultimately, I think that what you should do first is gain a little traction in your business, do what works, and then as you start to really understand what works and why it works, see if you can then come up with your own solutions to how you can improve that process to make it better for the people that you'll be working with. But until you really develop a firm understanding as to what you're doing and why it works, then you should really just kind of follow what everybody else is doing when it's a proven thing. Reason number 2 is spending a lot of money on a very limited budget. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier is that a lot of these reasons do actually correlate with each other. And I could have, in theory, put a lot of these underneath the same category, but I do feel like it was just important to separate them out from each other to help give a better understanding as to, more reasons maybe why the business failed. So anyway, we were spending a lot of money when we had no money really coming in. For example, as I mentioned, we were trying to market to people whose houses were not on market currently. And I'm aware how ridiculous that sounds. It's actually a very common practice, so it happens a lot in real estate. And we were doing things like Facebook ads, we were sending out mailers, we had call systems that we had in place to, make all these calls to people without using like our personal cell phone numbers. We had a CRM built up. I even hired somebody from the Philippines. And the problem is we were spending all of this money with almost nothing coming into our business. Looking back on it now, I realize a lot of money that we spent was basically a waste because we weren't able to generate any revenue through it, and we could have actually done very similar things for either free or at a very cheap cost. In the example of the marketing letters that we were sending out to people, a lot of people that do wholesaling real estate actually started off with just handwriting letters, stuffing their own envelopes, and mailing them out or dropping them off in a mailbox. In theory, that's what we could have done instead of spending close to, I think it was around like $2,000, give or take, on mailers that went out to people that truly received no traction. Occasionally we would get a phone call, but 9 times out of 10 when we get a phone call from the mailers we were sent out, it was just to have somebody ask us to please not send them any more mail. And in the case of selling to funds, which is what I do now for somebody else basically, all we really would have needed at that point in time is just an Excel spreadsheet. We would have been able to find the properties on there, keep notes on there, and keep everything updated just on an Excel spreadsheet, or on a Google sheet, which then we could have all shared, seen, and updated in real time, which in theory would have made a lot more sense because it's free and it's something that a lot of us already know how to use. So there was no learning curve associated with trying to figure out how to use these new programs that we were trying to. So my tip for that is to say, when you're getting started, start off with just the basics or the absolute bare bones that you'll need to operate. One thing I've learned along this process is Google has a ton of resources that you can use for free, and I would highly suggest utilizing them. If you do want a business line instead of using your own personal number, you can get a Google number for free. If you do need to have virtual meetings with people, whether that be for hiring or networking or, talking to prospective clients, then I forget what it's called. I want to say it's called Google Video or something like that. But essentially, Google has a built-in Zoom for free. So no time limits, no restrictions, no anything like that. You could schedule a meeting. I don't know how many people you're capped at, but we were able to have upwards of 5 at least in one meeting, which worked out very well for us because, again, we didn't have to pay for Zoom's monthly costs. And also, you could set up, your business Google email for free, so that shouldn't cost you anything either. You can get domains from them for pretty cheap. So when in doubt, just start with the bare bones, because a lot of times when you're starting a business, you're going to have a lot of people telling you on YouTube or other platforms that you need, this CRM or this call center software or this, class that you need to take to learn everything. And the fact of the matter is, while some of that could be important for your business, especially as you start growing, a lot of those people telling you that you need those systems are also affiliates of those companies, and they do receive a referral commission through those services, which sometimes if you get a discount for it, then absolutely take that path, but make sure it's something that is absolutely vital towards your business. And when in doubt, maybe try testing it out, especially if they have a 30-day trial period, and seeing, does it actually increase your business results exponentially to where you'd be able to afford that, or it actually makes a difference in how much revenue you're able to bring in. But if you're just breaking even on it or losing money on it, then usually it's not worth your time to invest in a lot of these additional sources until your business is really starting to grow and bring in a lot more revenue. Now, the third reason is actually the one I believe is the most important, and one that I think a lot of business do struggle with at first. And that was having perfect planning rather than imperfect action. And what I mean by that is we really did spend a lot of time, wasting time on things that, again, weren't actually helping us produce any revenue or generate leads for the business. We spent a long time trying to build out things like a CRM system, which would have, again, been very important for us when we actually started to have a lot of leads coming through the business. But for the time, we were spending too much time trying to make sure this was like a perfectly planned out process, when it really could have just been something done on, again, either a spreadsheet or like a Word doc or something to keep track of those initial leads that we did have coming in. And then this way, as those leads start to come in more and more frequently, I think that would be the time that we could have spent, or that might have been the time where we maybe focused on actually learning and building out a CRM. But until you really have a consistent flow of business happening, you don't need the most robust system out there. Another example too is we would waste a lot of time on things like our marketing mailers that we were sending out, down to like the right font, the right color, a lot of things that just aren't important, or that are not as important as just actually getting something out there and getting in front of people. And this happens a lot with, I think, almost anybody when they try something new. You get stuck in that whole analysis paralysis phase where you just want to study and make sure you know everything before you actually take action. And now, of course, I should give the disclosure here. Make sure you at least know what is legal and what's illegal so you don't do anything illegal. But you shouldn't let little things like fonts or CRM systems or like the right phone system actually take away from you doing what is going to help bring your business money. So the key takeaway that I have for that one, and something I'm going to take with me in the future, is it is more important that you actually take action than to plan how you're going to take action. So always taking that first step is going to be incredibly scary, and that's why most people don't ever get started, because they plan it out for too long. They get stuck in, studying the roots versus, bearing the fruits kind of phase, and ultimately it just leads to nothing. What's important is that you take consistent legal action for your business so that you can learn along the way, because ultimately taking those steps is what's going to help you learn the business a little bit more or a lot faster. At least it was for me. And lastly, I think it really just came down to having varying visions for where we actually wanted this company to end up. Despite all of the planning that we had, writing out like a business letter and taking direction and everything, a lot of us were just having ideas along the way that were taking away from what we should be doing, which was, again, making money for the business. So, it all started off, we had a pretty clear picture for where we wanted to be. We wanted to be a solution for investors, essentially like a hub for where, regular real estate investors can go to find, properties with the information about it, know about the area and everything, and essentially being a one-stop shop for them. Then we later came across an opportunity to work with a fund, which would have been a lot easier and a better way to generate revenue, but we got stuck in this like weird between area that ultimately took us nowhere. Then down the road, one partner wanted to ultimately have us be like a tech-based company and work with this like startup thing. One of us wanted to do more of like flipping. I think the other one of us wanted to do more of buy and hold, or even like vacation rentals. So none of us really had a clear picture for where we actually wanted to go. And I actually do remember we were 3-4 months into the business, and it felt like we still just weren't sure what we actually wanted to be doing. And I think that's when we ultimately decided to shut down shop, is because when you are, 8-9 months into starting something and you're still not really sure if you're doing the right thing, it might be best just to call it quits and either start completely over again, or just take a little break for the time being and, think about what it is that you really want, reconvene, and see if you guys are back on the same page as to what it is that you want with either this business or your own personal business. So I guess takeaway, kind of explained it that entire time for that one, is just as you go through this, always check in with each other and make sure, are we still on the right path here towards achieving this? Have milestones for your business, know what you need to achieve, and hold yourself accountable to that. If you are not reaching the goals that you set out for yourself, I don't know how you can really like punish yourself for that, but you shouldn't feel great about it, or it should at least bother you, I guess is the best way of saying, where a lot of times I think people are like, well, we didn't reach that goal because XYZ, and you start making up excuses. So having a clear path with actual milestones that need to be achieved is going to really just help make sure that you're all on the same page and your business is keeping track. So ultimately, those are what I would consider to be the 4 main reasons why I believe my real estate business failed. Again, I don't necessarily think these all just apply to real estate, even though most of my examples were real estate related. I think that some of these might be able to benefit even if you're going into, like a drop shipping business, or, some like Amazon business, or whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you're starting a beauty salon or something, any of these tips might be able to help you along the way. So that's ultimately why I wanted to share this with all of you today. And also too, again, I just think it's important for me to kind of put out there why it failed. No, this isn't something that I'm going to be harping on or dwelling on, but I think it's important to acknowledge so that way I know not to make the same mistakes in the future. As I've said many times on my channel before, experience is what you got when you didn't get what you wanted, and I gained a ton of experience while having a lot of fun doing this. So anyway, that's my video, that's my thoughts. I might actually try to make a Watch This Wednesday video tomorrow. I know it's Tuesday, but I might have time tomorrow, so if I can, love to finally get back to that. Portfolio is doing really well, and also would just kind of like to get back to more of the stock talk on my channel. So anyway, leave a comment below if you did. Anyway, leave a comment below if you did enjoy this video, if you think that maybe it will help you with your future endeavors. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm going to wrap up here, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. But I'll let you go ahead, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.